Hello, my name is Sam Christensen. I'm the exhibits curator at the Alabama Department of Archives and History. Today's artifact is a unique piece of military history that connects Alabama with Finland, Cuba, and anti-communism. This is a Lahti anti-tank rifle. It's a Finnish anti-tank rifle that was designed by a self-taught weapons designer named Lahti shortly before the Soviets invaded Finland in 1939. The Finns nicknamed it the elephant gun, and as you can see, it is massive. It's about 7 feet long and weighs a little over 100 pounds. It fires a 20mm round, which was larger than most anti-tank rifles of the 1930s. The rifle would be crewed by two anti-tank soldiers. There would be a shooter and a magazine loader, or magazine bearer, whose job was basically to replace this large magazine on top of the rifle. The rifle features this unique double bipod system to help stabilize the weapon on both firm ground and snow. Initially, it was designed to shoot at armored vehicles, mostly tanks. It's considered an anti-tank rifle. By the time Finland had mass-produced the L-39, the round it fired was no longer enough to reliably penetrate a tank's armor. So they used it for pretty much everything else. They would attack machine gun emplacements with it, sniper emplacements, bunkers, and unarmored vehicles. They even modified a few of them to shoot at aircraft. They produced them very heavily during both the winter and the continuation wars with the Soviet Union, but after the war, it was clear that it was no longer going to serve its original purpose, so they surplused most of them. They were very popular with American collectors. You could buy these things for what looks like relatively little money in retrospect from catalogs that were selling other military surplus equipment. Besides collectors, the rifles were attractive to Alpha 66, an anti-Castro guerrilla navy that would attach L-39s to speedboats and attack coastal targets in Cuba. One of their most significant raids occurred on March 27, 1963, when they sank the Soviet freighter Baku while she was moored in a Cuban port. The group attached a 50-pound magnetic bomb called a limpet mine to the ship and then used a Lahti to cover their escape. Well, most of Alpha 66 was made up of Cuban exiles, people that had left Cuba after or shortly before Castro took over. But there was one man named Craig Sheldon from Alabama. Mr. Sheldon was a carpenter, writer, environmentalist, artist, and anti-communist who had moved to Fairhope after serving in the Marine Corps in World War II as a radio operator. The story goes that Sheldon became an anti-communist while living in Alaska before World War II when a group of communists blew up his fishing boat. Well, originally he wanted to go out on raids with them, but he went down to Puerto Rico, spoke Spanish with them, didn't do a very good job, and they decided he would be better off advocating for them in English language newspapers, organizing monetary donations and supplies, much like this L-39. So after some of their raids, Alpha 66 came under a lot of scrutiny. I mean, the federal government didn't just want people going on these vendetta rides against Castro because they didn't want to deteriorate their relations further with the Soviet Union. The FBI did stake out Sheldon's house. He wasn't ever really all that worried about it because he never broke any laws. Instead, he'd sort of play pranks on him. So whenever he saw a group of FBI agents outside of his house, he would send a mug of coffee with cream and sugar. He never did send the Lahti to Alpha 66. By summer of 1963, he was pretty skeptical of the group. They were acquiring a lot of money and a lot of supplies, but they weren't really doing anything with them. So he did some investigation and found out that the American Central Intelligence Agency and Cuban communists had infiltrated the group. So he bowed out very quickly and continued doing some other support work for other like-minded groups. He stored it at his house, and after he passed away, his family found it. They hadn't really known anything about it, didn't think they could really store it at their house, so they called the archives and asked if the agency would be interested in receiving it as a donation. The archives agreed, but they wanted to be clear that they needed to transport the weapon up to Montgomery. So Craig Sheldon's son strapped the crated rifle on top of his VW Beetle and drove it from Fairhope to Montgomery. It was in the original crate that was marked with the carpentry tools. They brought a tool set with it as well, a few spare magazines, and the ski bipod, of course. Families help a lot with personal recollections of the person the artifact is about. Of course, we got a lot of great papers from him as well that detail a lot of his newsletters and advocacy work with Alpha 66, but really it's his family's stories that help connect a lot of these dots and take an artifact that at first blush really has nothing to do with Alabama and connects it to our mission.